I never thought my 12-year-old granddaughter would be the one to save my life. But there she was, sitting in my truck after soccer practice, gripping my arm so tight her knuckles turned white. "Grandpa Tom, we can't go back to your house tonight." I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Emily's face was pale, her freckles standing out like dots on paper. "What are you talking about, sweetheart? Your mom's picking you up from my place in an hour." "No," her voice cracked. "I heard Aunt Rachel on the phone yesterday. She was in your garage. I went to get my soccer ball and I heard her say. She said she needs to fix the carbon monoxide problem before someone notices." My heart stumbled. "Rachel, my daughter-in-law, married to my son Kevin for 8 years now. Emily, that doesn't mean—" "Grandpa," she also said, "Thursday night is perfect. He always runs the generator in the garage when he works on his models. Today is Thursday." My mouth went dry. She was right. Every Thursday evening, I worked on my model trains in the garage. And yes, I ran my portable generator because the outlet I needed was broken. Had been meaning to fix it for months. "Are you sure that's what you heard?" Emily pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I recorded it. I was scared, so I just hit record. She pressed play. Rachel's voice came through, crystal clear. "Thursday night, he'll be in the garage with that generator running. All I have to do is block the vent from outside, and by the time Kevin gets home from his conference, it'll look like a tragic accident. The life insurance is $750,000, babe. We can finally pay off everything and start over in Arizona like we planned." A man's voice responded. "And you're sure your husband won't suspect? Kevin? God, no. He's been so wrapped up in work he barely notices I exist anymore. Besides, once we have the money, I'll play the grieving widow for a few months, then we'll divorce amicably, and I'm all yours, Derek." The recording ended. I pulled over into a Wendy's parking lot because my hands were shaking too badly to drive. Emily was crying now, silent tears running down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Grandpa. I didn't want to believe it. I kept thinking maybe I misunderstood. But then I looked up carbon monoxide poisoning and it said generators in enclosed spaces and I got so scared." "You did exactly right, honey." I reached back and squeezed her hand. "You may have just saved my life, but what was I supposed to do? Call the police and tell them what? That I had a recording of my daughter-in-law potentially planning to murder me? Would they even believe it? Rachel was a kindergarten teacher, for God's sake. Everyone loved her. She volunteered at the church, baked cookies for the neighbors, smiled at everyone. And Kevin, my son. This would destroy him. Grandpa, you're not going home, right?" "No, sweetheart, I'm not going home." I drove us to a diner instead, bought Emily a burger and fries, and tried to think. The waitress kept glancing at us with concern, probably wondering why a grown man and a young girl both looked like they'd seen a ghost. I pulled out my phone and called the one person I thought might help, Frank Delgado. We'd served together in Vietnam, and he'd gone on to become a detective with the Phoenix PD before retiring. He moved to Portland 5 years ago to be near his grandkids. "Tom, what's wrong? You sound terrible." "Frank, I need help. Can you meet me? It's urgent." 40 minutes later, we sat in Frank's living room. Emily had fallen asleep on his couch, exhausted from the adrenaline crash. I played him the recording. Frank's face went hard. "Son of a bitch. What do I do? First, you don't go home tonight. Stay here. Second, we need more evidence. This recording is good, but a decent lawyer might argue it out of context. We need to catch her in the act." "In the act?" "Frank, it means we set a trap. We make her think her plan is working, but we control every variable." He leaned forward. "Tom, I know this is your daughter-in-law. I know Kevin loves her. But if we don't stop her tonight, she will try again. Maybe differently, maybe when we're not ready." He was right. I knew he was right. What do we do? Frank made some calls. By 6 p.m., he'd pulled together 2 favors. A buddy of his from Portland PD, Sergeant Amy Williams, who agreed to help off the record until we had solid evidence, and a crime scene tech who owed Frank for something I didn't ask about. The plan was simple. I would go home. I would go into my garage at my usual time, 7:30 p.m. I would start working on my trains and turn on the generator like always. But Sergeant Williams and Frank would be watching from a van parked down the street. The tech had rigged my garage with a hidden camera and an air quality monitor that would alert them immediately if carbon monoxide levels rose. And I'll have a CO detector in my pocket. I added. The kind with the loud alarm. She's going to block the vent from outside, Frank said. The garage shares a wall with your backyard. She'll probably come through the back fence gate. She has the code. I gave it to her last year. Emily woke up around 6:30, groggy and confused. I explained the plan in simple terms, leaving out the part where I was essentially bait. I want to come with you. Absolutely not. Grandpa, Emily, you saved my life by being brave and smart. Now I need you to be brave and smart by staying here where you're safe. Can you do that for me? She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Promise you'll be okay. I promise. At 7:15, I pulled into my driveway in Beaverton. My house looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Small, tidy. The front lawn a little overgrown because I'd been putting off mowing. Rachel's car wasn't there, but that meant nothing. She could park around the corner. Frank's voice came through the wireless earbud he'd given me. We're in position. Sergeant Williams has eyes on your back fence. We're ready. I went inside, turned on some lights, made myself a sandwich I couldn't eat. At 7:28, I went to the garage. My model train setup took up half the space. German locomotives, Swiss mountain scenery, tiny hand-painted people. I'd been working on this for 15 years. Sarah, my late wife, used to bring me coffee while I worked. She died 3 years ago, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal. The $750,000 life insurance policy was something we'd taken out 30 years ago. Back when that seemed like an impossible fortune. The monthly payments were minimal now, locked in at the old rate. I'd kept it because I wanted Kevin to have something, to be secure, never imagining his wife would want to kill me for it. I turned on the generator. The familiar rumble filled the garage. The carbon monoxide it produced would normally vent out through a pipe that went through the wall and outside. I'd installed it myself, carefully, safely. I picked up a tiny paintbrush and pretended to work on a locomotive. 7:42 p.m. Frank's voice. Movement at the back fence. Female figure, hoodie, gloves. Can't see her face yet, but build matches Rachel's profile. My hands wanted to shake. I forced them still. 7:44 p.m. She's at the vent pipe. She's got something. Looks like a plastic bag and duct tape. She's wrapping the vent outlet. I kept painting. Steady hands, steady breathing. I was back in Vietnam, in the jungle, waiting. This was no different. Just another kind of enemy. 7:46 p.m. Vent is completely blocked. She's securing it with. Jesus, she came prepared. That's professional-grade weatherproof tape. She's not improvising. The air quality monitor in my pocket buzzed softly. Co-levels rising. 7:48 p.m. She's checking her phone, texting someone. Now she's leaving back through the fence. Tom, how you feeling? I'm fine. The detector isn't alarming yet. It will. Sergeant Williams is moving to intercept. Stay put. I heard it then. Raised voices from the backyard. A woman shouting, Rachel, ma'am, I need you to stop right there. Portland Police. What? I live here. My father-in-law lives here. Through the back fence at 8 p.m. In gloves and a hoodie. I was just checking on him. He's elderly. Sometimes he forgets. Can you explain why you have duct tape and plastic bags? A pause. Then, I want a lawyer. Frank's voice. Tom, you can come out. We got her. But I stayed for another minute, looking at my trains, my locomotives, the tiny painted world where everything ran on schedule, where disasters were controlled, where you could always fix what was broken if you just had the right tools and enough time. That world didn't exist. Not really. I'd always known that. I opened the garage door. The night air rushed in, sweet and clean. My CO detector started beeping. Another few minutes and it would have been too late. Sergeant Williams had Rachel in handcuffs by the back gate. In the porch light, I could see my daughter-in-law's face clearly for the first time. She didn't look like a monster. She looked like Rachel. Pretty, tired, scared. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Tom, I can explain. You were going to murder me. No, I would never. You don't understand. Emily recorded you. We heard every word. The color drained from her face. Emily? She misunderstood. You told your boyfriend you'd block the vent while I ran the generator. You said the insurance was $750,000. You said you'd play the grieving widow. I took a step closer. Which part did Emily misunderstand, Rachel? She looked at me with so much hate then. The mask finally dropped. You were supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be dead, and Kevin and I were supposed to finally be happy, and that stupid little brat ruined everything. That's enough. Sergeant Williams pulled her toward a patrol car that had just arrived. Rachel Monroe, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Frank came to stand beside me. We watched them put her in the car. You okay? I have to call Kevin. Yeah, you do. That was the hardest call I've ever made. Harder than calling him when his mother died. Kevin was still at his conference in Seattle. He made it home by midnight. We sat in my kitchen, him numb and silent, while I explained everything. He listened to the recording once, just once. Then he put his head in his hands and cried like I hadn't seen him cry since he was 8 years old and his dog died. I didn't know she was having an affair. I didn't know about the debt. Dad, I swear, I didn't know. I know, son. How could I be so blind? Love makes us blind. That's not a character flaw. That's being human. Emily had been calling his phone every 10 minutes. When he finally called her back, she broke down. Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you like this. I'm so sorry. Baby girl, you saved Grandpa's life. You have nothing to be sorry for. But Mom, is not your fault. Not even a little bit. You understand me? It turned out Rachel had been having an affair with Derek Miller for 6 months. He was an electrician she'd met when the school needed some wiring fixed. They had plans. A life in Arizona. A fresh start. She'd racked up $85,000 in credit card debt that Kevin didn't know about. Buying things for a fantasy life that didn't exist yet. When I'd casually mentioned updating my life insurance beneficiary paperwork at a family dinner 2 weeks ago, it had triggered something in her. The debt collectors were closing in. Derek was getting impatient. And there I was, a 72-year-old man with no spouse, living alone, with $750,000 worth of reasons to die. The police found her search history. Carbon monoxide poisoning symptoms. How long does carbon monoxide take to kill? Life insurance payout on accidental death. She'd been planning this for 10 days. 10 days. 10 days between my daughter-in-law deciding I should die and my granddaughter saving my life. The trial was 4 months later. Emily didn't have to testify in person, thank God. The recording was enough, combined with the security footage from my garage camera, Rachel's search history, and Derek's testimony. He flipped immediately, claiming Rachel had manipulated him, that he never knew she planned to actually kill anyone. Rachel got 15 years. Could have been life, but her lawyer argued no one actually died. She had no prior record, and she showed remorse. I thought about objecting to that last part, but decided it wasn't worth it. She'd be in her 50s when she got out. Kevin would have moved on. I might not even be alive. Kevin and Emily moved in with me 3 weeks after the arrest. Kevin said he couldn't bear to be in the house he'd shared with Rachel. And honestly, I was grateful for the company. The house felt too quiet after Sarah died. Now it's full of life again. Emily's soccer gear in the hallway. Kevin's terrible cooking smells on weekends. Arguments about whose turn it is to take out the trash. Sometimes Emily still has nightmares. She'll wake up crying, scared she didn't warn me in time, that I died in the garage. On those nights, I make her hot chocolate and we sit in the living room, and I tell her the same thing every time. You were brave when it mattered. You listened when adults forget to listen. You acted when you could have frozen. Emily, you didn't just save my life. You saved Kevin's too, because if Rachel had succeeded, the guilt would have destroyed your dad. You saved both of us. Do you think she ever really loved us? That's the question that haunts all of us, isn't it? I think she loved the idea of us, the family she thought we were. But when reality didn't match the fantasy, she chose the fantasy. Some people do that. I'll never do that. I know you won't. Emily started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, a kind woman with her own practice in Portland who specializes in childhood trauma. She's been helping Emily process everything: the betrayal, the fear, the guilt she feels about her mother being in prison, even though intellectually she knows she did the right thing. Kids shouldn't have to carry that kind of weight. But Emily does it with more grace than most adults I know. Last week, she asked if she could write to Rachel. Dr. Chen said it might help with closure. Kevin wasn't sure, but I told him to let her decide. Emily wrote 3 drafts before settling on the final version. She showed it to me first. Dear Mom, I know you're angry at me. I know you think I ruined your life, but you were going to kill Grandpa. I couldn't let that happen. I still love you even though I don't understand why you did it. Maybe one day you can explain it to me in a way that makes sense. But even if you can't, I want you to know I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because Dr. Chen says holding on to anger is like drinking poison and hoping someone else dies. I'm going to live my life now. I'm going to be happy. I hope someday you can be happy too, in a way that doesn't hurt other people. Love, Emily. She never got a response. Maybe Rachel threw it away. Maybe she read it and couldn't face what she'd done. I don't know. What I do know is this. Emily is going to be okay. Kevin is going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I still work on my model trains on Thursday nights. But now Emily usually joins me, carefully painting tiny people or adjusting track layouts. Kevin brings us coffee and sits nearby, reading or watching videos on his phone. Just present. Just there. Last Thursday, Emily looked up from painting a miniature bench and said, "Grandpa, at school they asked us what we want to be when we grow up." "Yeah? What'd you say?" "I said I want to work with kids who are in danger, like a social worker or a therapist or maybe a detective. Because kids see things adults miss, and someone needs to believe them." I put down my paintbrush and looked at my granddaughter, 12 years old, freckles and braids and a spirit that refused to be broken. "You're going to be amazing at whatever you choose. I learned from the best." She smiled at me. "You always believed me, Grandpa. Even when it was hard. Even when it was about your own family. You made it easy. You came to me with evidence. You were smart about it. Dr. Chen says I probably saved other people too. She says people who try to kill once usually try again if they don't get caught." She was right. The investigation revealed Rachel had been researching my routines for weeks. The generator was plan A. If that hadn't worked, she had a plan B involving my blood pressure medication, and a plan C involving the stairs and a conveniently wet floor. My daughter-in-law had 3 different ways to kill me sketched out in a notebook they found in her car. Sometimes I still can't believe it. I look at photos from family dinners, from Christmas, from Emily's soccer games, and Rachel is there, smiling, looking completely normal. How do you reconcile that person with the one who was planning your murder? You don't, I guess. You accept that people are complicated, that desperation makes monsters of ordinary people, that love isn't always enough to keep someone human, and you hold tight to the people who chose to be brave when it mattered. Frank comes over most Sundays now. Him and his wife, Maria. We play cards and eat too much and don't talk about that night unless someone asks. Emily likes Frank. She calls him Grandpa Frank, which makes him tear up every single time. Last month, Sergeant Williams was promoted to lieutenant. Emily and I went to the ceremony. Afterward, Williams knelt down to Emily's level. "You know, we don't usually let civilians participate in active investigations, but your evidence, your bravery, and your clear thinking made this case airtight. You should be proud." Emily just nodded. She's not great with praise. Still processing that she's a hero to everyone but feels like she just did what anyone would do. Except not everyone would. That's the thing. Most 12-year-olds would have been too scared to record that conversation. Would have convinced themselves they misheard. Would have stayed quiet. Not Emily. At the trial, the prosecutor called her the bravest witness I've worked with in 20 years. The judge said her actions were a reminder that wisdom isn't confined to adults, and we ignore children's voices at our peril. But the words that meant the most came from a letter we received 3 weeks after the sentencing. It was from a woman named Jennifer Torres. Her father had died 5 years ago in what was ruled an accidental carbon monoxide poisoning in his garage. His widow had collected the life insurance and moved to Florida with her new boyfriend. Jennifer never believed it was an accident, but she had no proof, no evidence, just a gut feeling that something was wrong. She wrote, "Your granddaughter gave my family closure. After hearing about your case, we requested the police reopen my father's investigation. They found similar patterns. Search history, blocked vents, a boyfriend with dead. She was arrested last week. Your Emily didn't just save you. She helped catch a killer who got away with it once already. Please tell her thank you from our family to yours." I read the letter to Emily that night. She cried. The good kind of crying. The kind that releases something. "I helped someone," she whispered. "You helped a lot of someone, sweetheart." Now, 6 months later, life has settled into a new normal. Kevin is dating someone new. Sandra, a nurse he met at a support group for families of incarcerated loved ones. She's kind, patient, She doesn't push. Emily likes her, which is the most important thing. I've updated my will. Emily gets half of everything. Kevin gets the other half. And I've set up a trust that will pay for Emily's education, all the way through graduate school if she wants it. She's earned it. The house feels like home again. The garage feels like my sanctuary instead of a crime scene. And every Thursday night, when Emily and I work on the trains together, I'm reminded that families aren't just about blood. They're about who shows up, who believes you, who acts when it matters. Emily showed up. She believed her instincts. She acted. She saved us all. And someday, when she's old enough to understand the full weight of it, I'll tell her what I should have told her that first night. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most truth. Sometimes the youngest hands hold the strongest courage. And sometimes, the person who saves your life is the one you've been teaching to tie their shoes and ride a bike and believe in themselves all along. You raised yourself a hero, Emily. I just got to watch.